Nice to see you. Thanks for coming out. Happy August, dog days of summer. Although it's a little cool, it's not as hot as it was earlier in the month, I guess, in the end of July there. Again, thanks for coming. So today we're going to talk about, is everybody in there, Eileen?
Yep.
So.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great. So today we're going to talk about managing expectations. But first, as you know, I have to do my announcements because I'm a lawyer. So this is for informational and discussion purposes only. It's not legal advice. There's no attorney-client relationship created by this. If you want to go get legal advice from somebody, you have to just go out and either hire us as your attorneys or seek another attorney and have a fee agreement with them. And as I say every time, none of this is kept confidential. So if you do say something in the chat or ask a question in the chat, which would be great, we love to use the chat and we get some great questions. Do so, but understand that we will not keep it confidential. Everyone will be able to see your questions and our answers. We'll be discussing them. So thanks again for coming. We actually, today's an unusual day. We have a dog of the day, and then we also have 2 cats of the day, believe it or not. So this is the dog of the day. This is Brandy. Brandy is a 12-year-old toy Yorkie, and Brandy is owned by Barbara Strubel, who is a manager for Association Advisors down in Freehold. So that's excellent. Thanks, Barb. Nice to see your dog. And I'm glad the Brandy apparently has been having some health challenges lately, but apparently on the mend. So thanks again, Barb. And now we have, what do we have? We had a couple cats submitted of the day by the day. Oh, there's Barb. Sure. And then we had a couple cats today submitted. These cats were submitted by Chip Hoover, and Hank is the gray one in the front there, and Tripod is the orange one, kind of sitting back on that blanket there. And Chip is the owner of Somerset Management Group right over in Somerset. So thanks, Chip. Thanks for sending them in. Looking good, nice and relaxed. Those cats. Cats are very good at relaxing. Not so much condo attorneys, unfortunately. So again, thanks for coming. So managing expectations, and we're talking about managing the expectations when you have a management company or when you're going out to bid for management, or when you're evaluating your current management company, or you're trying to determine what your management company should be paid if you're looking at prospective management companies, or you're being asked to pay additional sums to your existing management company. As you all know, I don't own a management company. I'm not involved in day-to-day property management. However, we do work with probably the vast majority of association management companies throughout New Jersey. So that gives us some insight into management and management personnel and management companies themselves. So one thing we see a lot in the management company bidding process, because at the end of the bidding process, usually many times association boards don't even get us involved. We don't even know that the association is going out to bid for management. We don't even know there's a problem with management until the association says, hey, Fran, we just gave notice to our management company, and we need you to prepare, number one, a termination letter in a formal way. And we also want you to prepare a new contract for a new management company. So that is not good for us, because the existing management company immediately says to us, Fran, why didn't you give us a heads up? And we say, we had no idea there was a problem. They just told us as well. And they never believe that when we say that. They never, ever, ever believe that. They always think, oh, Fran, you knew, you were lurking in the back. You knew this was happening. So the majority of the time we don't. Sometimes we do. And as you know, because we're attorneys, if the board says, Fran, there's a problem with management and we can't give them a heads up, you're not allowed to give them a heads up, you're not allowed to speak to them, Fran, then we can't, because we're bound as attorneys not to do that, which is unlike other vendors, of course. They don't have the same type of fiduciary relationship that we do, and they're not bound by the same ethics rules that we are. So management duties, and I was going to put, let's see, I wanted to share a screen for a second, because many times boards will go into an interview without understanding what they want their management company to do, right? What they want their management company to do, and what they're paying for and what they're not paying for in the contract, in the relationship, if you will. So I'm going to put screen up there. So can everybody see that? Everybody see it? Yep.
Yep.
So so this is from a management company in Ohio. I did not use any New Jersey management company's materials because then everyone would be mad at me. And they would say, Fran, you like XYZ management company because you use their management agreement as a sample, or you talked about our management company and you disclosed some information, or that proves you don't like us. So, right, some people are sensitive and I don't want to hurt any feelings. But anyway, so this is a management company sample from Ohio. So it's talking about the management duties, which would in your world be the specifications, right? So when we're talking apples to apples, and I'm not endorsing this agreement, this is just for topics. The board should be thinking about these things. What are the agent's duties, right? Manage and operate the common elements. And it goes on to, and should go on to into greater detail. Meetings, should they attend the meeting? If management is going to attend the meeting, who is going to attend, for how long, how often, how frequently, how late at night, what about weekends, all of those things, right? Because in our practice, we represent associations from Cape May County all the way up to Sussex County. And depending on the makeup of the community, they may have to meet on certain days, for example. So we've had communities that were dominated by a certain religious group, and they down by the shore, and they met on Sunday mornings because they couldn't meet on Saturdays. We've also had many associations that met on the weekend because they were vacation homes, second home condominium associations or homeowners associations. Now, should the manager be paid more for that, for weekend duty and or weekend meetings? I think a lot of managers would say yes. So you'd have to figure those things out if you have a unique management situation. In addition, with respect to meetings, many association management specifications say that the meeting shall be limited to 2 hours in duration and attended by the on-site manager. However, and I don't necessarily agree with this, especially if you have a competent manager, many boards will say, well, Fran, we want the regional manager to come in every month as well, or we want the regional manager to come in addition on a quarterly basis. That is typically not included in your management agreement, and I would say that most associations would typically be charged for that, right? Because it's not part of the management contract as a basic sense. Now, people would say, well, Fran, you're the association's attorney. Why do you care about the management company making money? I am not in business to make management company owners rich. However, I am in business to support the association itself. And if the management personnel in particular are not fairly compensated and they do more than is required in the management agreement, eventually the property management personnel wind up getting ground into the ground, right? So what we see oftentimes is a management company representative will be at meetings till 11 o'clock at night. So from 6 till 11 o'clock at night, it's a 2-hour meeting requirement, but they will not bill the additional hours that are even due under the contract because they are afraid if they bill for work in excess of the specification for the meetings, the management company will be on the block in terms of going out to bid. What people forget, though, is that these people, the management personnel, are not expendable, especially in today's market. I mean, and I've spoken to several management company owners this week, every one of them is like, we need personnel. We need good, competent, dedicated, hardworking personnel. They are not out there in the market right now. There is no bench. There is no bench, right? So very few, if any, management companies have quality managers just sitting around waiting to be placed in an association. It's just not there. And to the extent your association is grinding managers or grinding manager personnel without compensating them fairly, there's going to be problems, and eventually that management person will depart. So that's just an example of meetings. But in terms of specifications, generally, we want meetings, setting up policies, rule enforcement, services requests, insurance, being a liaison with insurance claims and accidents. This is a big issue that we get phone calls on all the time. So insurance claims and accidents, typically what's involved in an association management specification is merely processing the claim, right? In terms of submitting the claim, working with legal if necessary, not public adjusters typically, but working with legal and the in-house management staff to get the claim paid, although some associations do use public adjusters, to get the claim paid and to get the buildings rebuilt, say an example of a fire, a flood, what have you. The issue, though, oftentimes is it's just that's included in the specification. It is not the manager day-to-day supervising reconstruction or coordinating the rebuilding of the unit or clearing parking lots or rearranging parking areas for things like staging, scaffolding, or what have you. And what happens is we've had a number of cases where the management company has said, well, association, here is our invoice for management services outside the scope of the manager's day-to-day service. And the board loses its mind when they get that invoice. But it does make sense, right? It does make sense because nobody would have part of their regular specification that the manager is going to spend 3 hours after their day is done going over a fire loss site or reviewing whether the parking area has to be cleared or the area where the storage of materials are. So you have to be careful with that. And if you have something like a fire loss, an extraordinary construction project, say siding, roofing, etc., where the actual association manager, rather than or in addition to the association's engineer, is involved with coordinating the job, that you have to expect that the association's management company is going to charge additional sums if they're involved. Now, of course, you're not going to pay double, right? So you're not going to pay double because if you're already paying your manager to be in the office, for example, all day, you expect that manager to work the full day. What you may have to do is pay for an additional managing assistant, an additional administrator, or what have you, to assist with those jobs outside the scope of the day-to-day management work. So that's insurance claims and accidents. That is a big source of frustration in our world. We get the phone calls for that. Answering services we talk about, right? You want to make sure that somebody can get to a live person. In my opinion, one of the biggest downfalls of certain management companies is the morass of voicemail. You can't get a live person. That is a real problem, and we get a lot of complaints about that. And believe me, I'm not here to criticize management companies. I'm sure if someone from a management company was doing this seminar today, they'd be saying, "Let me tell you about lawyers, Fran McGovern," and that's fair. I get it. But so anyway, answering service records and files. This is an interesting topic, especially as we go into the world of AI. So historically, records and files, the association's management company, say you got a new management company, they would maintain the association's records pursuant to a retention, production, and destruction schedule or resolution by the board, right? What typically would happen in a transition from one management company to another is we would send a termination notice. And at some point, the management company would say, "Okay, Fran, we got 5 bankers boxes. Come on over and pick them up." Excuse me, or they would drop them off at the new management company. In today's world, I think we should all be thinking about how those records and files go from one management company to another. And I think we should start thinking about addressing that in the management contract. So, for example, if you most records today, especially the financial records, are in software electronic format, and really printing out reams of paper and giving it to a lawyer and a successor management company in a box doesn't help you. So I think there's a pretty good argument that the association should be able to get its data in its native electronic format, such that, for example, and I know TOPS changed its name, I believe, right? But so if the association was going from a TOPS management company to a TOPS-based software management company, in theory, that should be seamless. In theory, I know that I'm saying a lot there, assuming a lot, but I think we have to head in that direction because, given the fact that AI is at the cutting edge, I think there's going to come a point, if it's not now already, where AI should be able to analyze historic financial data, for example, and give association pictures of a long time progression of things like costs, maintenance obligation, maintenance spending, utility savings, things like that. And historic data would be wonderful. And you shouldn't have to go back and recreate all that data via a banker's box or somebody doing key punching at their desk. So records and files, and we want to think about how they are kept, how are they transferred if the relationship ends, what kind of software we're using, etc. I know we have some very good managers on the call with us today, and I'm sure they're going to have some comments on that. Correspondence files, of course, maintenance standard, correspondence files that may be unit owner files as well. Maintenance standards, on-site responsibility, that is the person going to be on site. Agent, this is interesting, again, this is from Ohio. Agent shall have its property manager on the premises of association not less than once per week. Not less than once per week. What does that mean? Nothing, right? Awful language, right? Because what people say to me, if that is the language, and the manager drives through the community, literally drives through the community once a week, they're going to say, Fran, the manager drives through the community, but he or she doesn't do anything. She drives through the community. And I'm going to call up the owner of the management company and say, hey, Kenny, what's up? You know, the board's not happy. They say the manager is just driving through the community once a week. And he's going to say, Fran, do you see my contract? And it says the property manager on premises not less than once per week. Does that mean one day? Does that mean drive through? Does that mean in the office? Does that mean inspecting all the construction, inspecting the units, doing a walkthrough, rendering a report, etc.? If you don't have decent specifications, you're not going to get what you want in terms of your expectations, because most boards, if they said a manager is going to be on site once a week, they would expect that would be one full day sitting in the clubhouse per week. But if it doesn't say that, you're going to have a problem going from the get-go, right? You don't want friction. You want to manage the expectations by driving the specifications. In addition, if you drive the specifications, you will be able to compare apples to apples, right? And the bidders, the management companies that are bidding, will know what your price expectations are, and they'll know how to bid the job. Because as you all know, there are different levels of management company. We have some fantastic management companies, many of them in New Jersey. We have some poor management companies, just like anything else, just like law firms, just like accounting firms, etc. So it's easy to come to an interview and say, yeah, we can do that. And by the way, we can do it for a third of the cost of all the other bidders. Do you want to take that bidder? The answer is probably not, unless they can articulate to you how they can do it, right? Because in a competitive bidding process, people should be relatively close. People should be relatively close, right? And if they're not relatively close, you should be asking them why. Why are you not relatively close? Did we miss something in our specifications? We as the association requesting the bids, did we miss something? Or did you miss something, right? Did you bid it and didn't realize it, and 6 months from now, you're going to say, oh yeah, by the way, that was not included. I know it came in as the lowest bidder, but that is not included. That's outside the scope. So you want to be careful about that. Control over independent contractors, etc. On-site responsibility, we talked about. Maintenance, okay, dealing with repairs, contract specifications, bidding contracts. So bidding contracts, this is not on the agenda today, but I think it's an important topic, and it's been coming up more and more in my conversations at the various social events for association world, is people say, oh, well, this management company has affiliated vendors. Is that a problem? And the answer is that can be a fantastic benefit, or it can be a terrible detriment. But the board has to decide, after full disclosure by the management company, whether it will go that route. You see what I'm saying? Because it's a double-edged sword. Some associations say, Fran, I do not want to work with an affiliated vendor of the management company. We just don't want to, and that's fine. Other associations say, hey, Fran, you know what? We want to work with affiliated vendors because, number one, we think they'll have better control, and they should have more loyalty because they know if their affiliated vendor screws up the job, they're putting their management service contract at risk. So there's a back and forth of accountability there. When we get to the bidding, however, that's where people start biting their nails. They say, Fran, how are we going to bid this properly? And how can we be comfortable that the manager who has an affiliated vendor is accepting bids and we're getting a clean bidding process? So the board has to work that out on their own, but has to be conscious to the extent that there's a related entity to their management company. As I said, I've seen excellent situations where management companies have affiliated entities and the associations have been very, very happy with them. Again, that's based on full disclosure. It has to be full disclosure from the beginning. And it's an ongoing relationship where the management company is working with the board and the affiliated vendor to get things done properly. Independent vendors are fine. You don't run into the questions on the bidding process there as much, right? Because in theory, there should be a less of an interest, self-interest, if you will, from the management company in getting the work. So you just have to be careful during the bidding process with related entities. Supplies, who's providing the supplies, credits, what's happening in terms of following up on credit, supervision of any employees or any staffing, inspection, unit maintenance, agents' duties in terms of following up on capital improvements, dealing with attorneys, financial, for those accountants out there, everyone is very concerned about the financial. So working with things like the finance committee on the budget, is your expectation going to be that the management company or the manager will present me with a budget, and then the finance committee or the board will chew it over after the budget is in draft and cut here and sharpen there and increase over there and move this sideways and all those other good things? Or is the expectation that the budget will just be implemented by the management company when it's handed to them by the finance committee? I think in most situations today, the management company prepares a pro forma budget from the get-go based on historic data, and then the finance committee or the association's board works through it with management to get it to where they need it to be. Financial records, of course, very important. Monthly reports, monthly statements, mailings, etc., delinquent accounts, following up with association lawyers, etc., in terms of getting things done. Some association management companies, there are several of them in New Jersey who have affiliated collection agencies. Obviously, in my own self-interest, I'm not a fan of that because we do a lot of collection work and we feel we were very effective at it. But the interesting thing about management companies that have affiliated collection agencies is, again, it's about disclosure. Is it affiliated, and how much does it cost, right? And how effective is it? Association insurance, federal filings and taxes, working with the association on the various filings, financial questions, follow-up, annual independent review. Most associations we work with don't do reviews. They actually have audits done. Again, this is Ohio. And then we get on to indemnification, but those I'll stop the share there. So the question is, when you are bidding for management, the best management companies in New Jersey will be able to talk you through all those points and say, this is what you should expect for this, right? This is what you should pay for it, right? And we can do all these other wonderful things, right? And they're not included in the base bid. However, it's going to cost you X, Y, and Z for those additional items, and that's fair. What is troubling sometimes is, like I said, when the low bidder comes in and somebody has just, the prior bidder has just walked through all those items and said, this is how it costs, this is how we break it out, and this is how we do things, this is what you have to pay on the side, etc. in addition. And the next bidder comes in, he goes, you know what? I can do it for $13 a door. You're like, what? What? Nobody's doing it for $13 a door, right? That's just craziness in terms of bidding, right? That gives you no information, that gives you no education, right? Because again, I'll use Jeff as an example because he's staring me in the face. I mean, someone like Jeff, just in the bidding process, could give a course on property management, right? And the scope of management duties and things like that, right? Now, but if somebody walks in after Jeff were to interview and said, hey, you know what, $13 a door, it's not a problem. And you go, well, that's weird because Jeff was just here and he told us all this wonderful stuff and why it has to be this way. And yeah, it cost more for this and that and the other thing. And you're just telling me it's $13? Seriously? You have to scratch your head. You have to scratch your head. And we've talked about this many times. There's that cliche, if you think education is expensive, imagine the cost of ignorance, right? That's the cliche. If you think management, professional management is expensive, imagine the cost of mismanagement. The cost of mismanagement is horrendous with respect to legal. Yeah, Jeff, you'd be fine. Jeff just bid $12.75 a door, by the way. So everyone sign up, Jeff. So that the cost of having bad management, it usually winds up having, if you just go in there and have a management company that is the stone cold lowest bidder that hasn't been able to walk through specifications and tell you what to expect in terms of the service and the personnel involved and the back office involved, it will take you 2-3 years to recover, and you will have things like lawsuits. You'll have association members tearing management apart, and ultimately they will tear the board apart. And many associations wind up with the board being flipped because of that. So you just have to be really careful. Another thing that you want to look at in terms of specifications for management is what else does management do and charge for, even though it may not be a charge to the association itself. So many board members don't realize that management companies, not only do they do work for the association, generally, they do work for the association's unit owners. So for example, doing things like closing packages, doing things like refinancing, doing things like following up on leases, et cetera, that they may be, and this is not always the case, but they may be direct billed to your homeowners. Now, some board members like Fran, we don't care, whatever, management can charge whatever they want to our direct homeowners, but most boards do care about that. And when they're talking to a professional management company, they want to know, are you providing services directly to the homeowners? And if so, what is going to be the fee schedule for that? Again, all of that is fine. What many associations do, however, is they expect the world from management. They expect the world from management, and they don't expect to pay for it. And that just doesn't make sense. And what it's doing, again, in the world is chewing up managers. I want to show you one other thing. So I can't find it right now. One second. I want to find one other thing for you. Okay. This is something, so what I have a note in here, right? Associations are not exempt from market forces, right? So if you're a self-managed community, if you're a professionally managed community, if you're in between, you have your own management staff, good professional management is solid gold these days, solid gold and hard to find. So I want you to think about this. So that Ohio management company, which is a long-standing management company, has a great reputation as far as I know. But I think this may be a mistake they're making, and I'll show you. Can everyone see that? Can you see that, Mike? Yeah. So this is a management group out of Ohio, and this is what they have on their homepage. So Chuck Schulman is a very, very experienced manager since the 70s out there. But they got the list of their property managers. They got their phone numbers. They got their extensions. They got their office personnel. They got their extensions. They got their email address. They got their office personnel and their email addresses. Why would they do that? So in my world, that is a huge mistake. Is it nice? Is it nice? Is it helpful to some homeowners? Some members would like, I want to know the number and direct extension of your assistant. It's nice. Homeowners would like that. However, who loves that even more? Headhunters. Headhunters love it, right? They are just going through your websites, right? Because they go, hey, Chuck is a great, well-known manager in the management business. Who better to steal than Chuck's employees, right? Or Four Seasons at blank, fill in the blank, is an excellently run community. And I went over to Four Seasons site and they have listings, phone numbers, and emails for all their management staff, all their maintenance staff, and all of their in-house personnel. Awesome. Guess who I'm going to call tomorrow morning and steal from them? So especially in today's tight labor market, I think both associations and management companies should be somewhat circumspect in how much they publish to the internet. Sometimes it's people, actual people who go out and look at these websites. If it's a headhunter rather than a competitor, there are bots that just scrub the web in certain areas and glom onto that information, and they headhunt your people. So it's just something to think about. I think it's a nice thing. It's a little bit old-fashioned, I think, to post everyone out there, but you're basically guaranteeing that your people are going to be regularly solicited or attempted to be stolen. And in today's world of a tight labor market, you don't want that. Cultivating and retaining good managers, I've said this a million times, I'll say it again, is training and giving them time for training and education through things like CAI, through IREM, through the Urban Land Institute, organizations like that. You can't expect managers to pop out of the box and be the most experienced, educated manager in the world. Managers have to start somewhere. New managers have to be given an opportunity to do ride-alongs, assistant managers with experienced managers, and to learn and train. They also need time off. They also need reasonable requests. So in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, I'm just a lawyer, managers shouldn't be getting bombed with emails and texts all day Saturday and all day Sunday unless it's a true emergency. You know, in some associations, they've never heard of what a true emergency actually is, right? But I don't like the way the shrubs were trimmed this weekend is not a true emergency, right? It's something that can wait till Monday. But oftentimes the managers get those kind of relentless emails. And you can imagine, even as board members, sometimes the board members get them directly if they're accessible to the membership. It grinds on you. It grinds on you as a board member or a committee member or a manager. So what I like to say is both board members and managers should also set expectations in terms of boundaries, right? You should not be assaulting me or accosting me in the parking lot, right? Because you don't like the way your snow was plowed, right? You should not be accosting me in the parking lot if you don't like the way the street sweeping went. It's fine to send me an email. We'll create a work ticket. We'll follow up on it in due course. And especially board members, it's awesome from a political standpoint, an electability standpoint, for board members to be available and accessible 24/7. But at the same time, it grinds volunteers up and we lose good volunteers oftentimes because of that. So that's it. I'm going to keep rambling and ranting if I keep talking, but I'm going to stop there and we're going to start looking at some questions. I see there's a couple questions up there. Mike, you want to start?
Yes. First of all, hey, Nicole, she asked, how can we get a copy of the recording? I'm sure Eileen can send it out to Nicole and whomever else, right?
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, we have it. Sure.
All right. And then Fran, it says, this is from Colleen. When should the association address the lack of staffing that should be provided according to the contract? For example, the contract provides for 4 staff members. Management has major gaps in employees and sometimes only 3 for a month or more.
So, you know, management, to the extent that the management agreement requires a certain staffing level, it should be provided. I don't know what else to say about that. I think that's the short answer.
Yep.
We have Jeff up there bidding $12.75 for any door out there. That's very generous of you, Jeff. And do you have, what is this?
I think it's, do you have any associations that are self-managed?
Yes. Thanks so much. Is that Marty? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Marty, yes, we have quite a number of self-managed associations. And let me just show you something. I'll give a little plug for CAI National. So CAI National, let me close that out. So CAI National So that's a very timely question, Marty. CAI National has a library that you can go on. Community Association Institute, not of New Jersey, Community Association Institute, generally national, out of Alexandria, Virginia. New Jersey is just a chapter of the national organization. And they have tons of resources just like this. This resource is, the third edition of the self-management guide to community associations and condominium associations. And it is an excellent guide. It's edited by Ellen Hirschtahan, who is a legendary community association attorney out of, I think she might be in Virginia. I can't really remember, but a very, very well-known and very experienced community association attorney was the editor of this. But there are contributors from all over the country to the book. And the Community Association Institute, in their library, you can buy all types of resources: reserve funding, structural analysis, management agreements, resolutions, document retention policies, dealing with difficult people, running a board meeting, all those wonderful things. So they have great resources. And by the way, some people disagree with this. The association's board, in my opinion, the association should pay for those resources. Even though more often than not, I see people like, we'll say Colleen or Jim or whoever, Lou, they go out and spend their own dime on it, right? But really what should happen is, a board member should go back to the board and say, hey, listen, I'm on the board. There's an issue I'm interested in. It's involving how to run open meetings or how to run executive session meetings, and Community Association has it for $29.95, and I'd like to buy it. And in my opinion, the association should have a little library, if they're going to buy resources like that, and keep it in the management office for the board members and the management representatives to reference. So there are some management companies out there who have an entire library, who have bought all those books, and they'll let association members use them or review them if they like. But I mean, I think that's a fairly reasonable expense for an association to pay for. Let's see.
Yeah, Fran, Lynette is asking, what's the average size of self-managed communities existing or recommended? Fran, I'd say the smallest that I could think of is maybe around 200 units. I know another 300 unit, and then the others are larger communities with over 1,000.
Right. So Lynette, the answer, I'll expand on Mike's answer. The answer goes from a full spectrum. So you go down to LBI, they have 4-unit condos where just the 4 of us, the 4 unit owners, manage it ourselves and just fight with each other every month at the monthly meeting, right? We're not going to replace the roof this year. We can get through another year. We need a new roof. The two upstairs units are getting water in them. That's not so bad. Let's put some tar on it, right? That's self-managed. It's horrendous. And oftentimes a local accountant or bookkeeper or local realtors get sucked in, because Bob's their friend or Kathy's their friend. But that's the smallest self-management is 2, right? So there are lots of, strangely enough, especially at the shore in New Jersey, 2-unit condo associations, which can be a real nightmare if the people don't get along. And as Mike said, the largest are thousands of units. So we regularly go to national conferences, and there are self-managed associations that are basically like a city, that have thousands and thousands of units, and they even have in-house legal staff offices. So they'll have 1, 2, 3 attorneys in-house that are on the payroll of the association. So they have a management team. They're almost run like a small city. So self-management really covers a lot of ground. So it's really hard to say. In New Jersey, when you have pure self-management, oftentimes, so you can refer to self-management as, we're a board, we hire a staff, we direct the staff, right? That's one version of self-management. A different form of self-management, which I'm not super comfortable with, is if you have a sizable association, say you have 500, 600 units, and you decide to be self-managed, and Fran's going to be the bookkeeper, right? And Mary's going to be the grounds and maintenance lady, and Kenny down at the end of the table is going to do collections. I don't like that model because I think there's a couple issues. Oftentimes things can go sideways, number one. And also from a financial standpoint for the accountants out there, no financial controls, from a classical financial control standpoint. And I haven't seen it in that situation, but to me, it just leaves the door open for money to walk away. Now, again, as the financial people on the call know, anybody can steal. You can have the best financial controls in the world and people can still get away with theft or misappropriation. However, the better your financial controls, the less likely you're going to have a problem like that. And if you have no accountability, no financial controls, you're really, really, really at risk. Oftentimes also in pure self-managed communities, there may be some gaps or in their insurance coverage, right? So they're not involved in the industry, and they may be dealing with insurance that is not provided by an insurance professional who regularly works in the community association field, right? So they're selling a policy that doesn't really give them the coverages that they need. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, Fran, Terry had a comment about the CAI resources that are available. She said some management companies have their own custom resources,
right,
that their clients could take advantage of.
Yep.
Anna's asking about was the state of New Jersey proposing legislation that would replace boards with property managers?
So Anna, I've never seen anything like that.
Hmm.
The state of New Jersey has had many. So I'll do a little plug for Community Associations Institute Legislative Action Committee. We have a very good legislative action committee that does bill tracking, tracks all the pending bills. And sometimes they come across bills that are really whacked out, and the LAC committee will raise a red flag on them and attempt to stop them through our lobbyists and other activity. But I have never seen a proposed bill that proposes that, although I've been on the Legislative Action Committee myself. I'm not on right now, but when I have been on, I've seen some bills that legislators propose with respect to associations that are just craziness. And what the legislators are doing is, I don't even think they believe that they're ever going to get any traction in the legislature, but they have some constituents who say, hey, I have a problem, I need you to do something for me, and this is what I need you to do. And for whatever reason, they submit a bill that provides that kind of thing. The only caveat to what I just said is, over the past, I would say since COVID, we have a couple of associations where they just cannot get board member volunteers. They can't get board member volunteers at all, so they have no board. And the governing documents often say that in the absence of an association to have a functioning board, the municipality shall have the right to go in and administer the association and charge back the members for the cost of the association being administered by a municipality. I have never seen that done. Instead, what we have gotten involved in, as the association administratively is falling apart, we actually file a lawsuit. I know this sounds crazy, but we file a lawsuit requesting the court to appoint a special fiscal agent or a receiver for the association, so that the judge will appoint a management company once he or she, the judge, reviews the qualifications of the management company, and they can run the association without direction of a board because no board exists. We've had that probably 2 or 3 times in the past 3 years. And even as I sit here right now, we still have one association that is still being operated under an order from the court for a special fiscal agent, because even after about 2.5 years, they have not been able to get board members to volunteer. So that's a real problem. I hope that answered your question a little bit, Anna. I know I tend to ramble sometimes. Everyone good? So, well, we'll let you get back to the beach. Thanks everyone for showing up. I really appreciate it. It's always great to see everybody. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and please take some time and dive into that ocean, get to the beach, and have some fun this weekend. Great seeing everyone. Have a good one.